soul, for the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. There is one little tulip bursting forth in my yard. It's a yellow sprig that blooms and blossoms against the brown dirt, trash, grime. As this small bit of life emerges amongst the death, I've been thinking about our emergent strategy, the concept that is popularized in the book edited by Adrienne Marie Brown, on who we preached a few weeks ago. Emergent strategy is the understanding and the attempt to model our own ways of being off of the natural world, the rhythms of the animal and plant world, to model microorganisms to our macroorganisms. Simply put, it is how to be in harmony and love in and with the world. So in trying to model our civilization, I think about that little tulip, about how to live more in tune with nature, to emerge forth in the spring and to see what's going on around us, to see the problems in the world, and to try to be more in tune with one another, to try and live as symbiotes with our Mother Earth, with the holy, with our neighbors, rather than simply trying to subdue and be masters of the universe. It's what I call a theology of spring. Asking these big theological questions in a theology of spring is about what it means to be alive in these days. What with massive wealth inequality, systemic racism, white supremacy culture, patriarchal oppression, and, oh yes, a global pandemic. What does it mean to be human in these days? How do we make sense of these times? And if we take Adrienne Marie Brown at her word and think about emergent strategy, what kind of harmony and love are we being called into and with? This is our big question for today. What is our theology of spring? In theological terms, the direction of things, the mission of an organization, the mission of a person, the life drive of a person, is something called the telos, T-E-L-O-S, telos. It's a Greek word, and it means like direction. Your teleology is the study of where you are headed, where life is headed, where your group is headed, and why. Another way to phrase this is, where is the moral arc of the universe bending towards? Where is life pointing towards? Emergent strategy posits that life always points towards more life, that life begets life, that nature begets more nature. The Humanist Manifesto defines religion as loyalty towards life, so I think they're saying similar things. Where are we headed, as Fern put? And how do we get there? If we are loyal to life, if we are aimed at something, what is it? What does our theology of spring tell us? The natural world begets that getting in right relationship, symbiotic relationship with one another, with God, with nature, with our institutions, that is the aim. That something that creates processes and systems that build resilience and transformative justice are two of the biggest aims of nature and life. That building resilience and transformation are perhaps the two driving factors in what we might call a theology of spring in this Earth Day celebration. Transformative justice is a phrase I really like, made up of two words, transformation and justice. Let's talk about transformation. It happens every spring, does it not? When new life springs forth, like my little tulip in my front yard. We might call it regeneration, Like the dandelions, we might call it rebirth. Like the plants, we might call it resurrection. We might call it restoration. But this cycle that our sixth source of Unitarian Universalism talks about, the rhythms of nature and the cycle of life and death, that is simply how the world works. It is how the universe works. And that sometimes for new things to be born, old things have to die. And I need you to hear me on this. I'm not lifting up some morbid fascination with viruses or pandemics or saying that people need to die so the economy can live on. That's ridiculous. And there are systems and ways of thinking that have to go the way of the dinosaurs in this spring if we are to be transformed. Are you with me? That life begets more life, and that yes, people get sick, people die, people leave us. And life continues. Life begets more life. We still grieve, we still hurt. And emergent strategy tells us that death is not a failure. Death is not losing. Death is a part of life. That in nature nothing is a failure, that everything is data. Everything is data that nature uses to point towards more life. It's the telos of the natural world. It's towards right relationship, towards resilience, towards transformative justice, towards transformation. All of life is transforming. Sometimes transformation feels like death and does need to be grieved. We are transforming now. Our world is transforming. And sometimes what we need is, like Susan said, a good cry. That is an appropriate way to grieve. Because of so much transformation, not just the new plants and the new trees and the pollen that's going on in the air around us, but these new ideas, these new ways of being, these new technologies, new ways of communications, new emails that I have to read. There's a lot of newness in this spring. How might we embrace it to build resilience? How might we create justice as part of the transformative justice? Well, I think it's based on being in what we call right relationship, right? Honoring our covenant, as Fern mentioned. Brown writes in her book on emergent strategy that we have been taught a few things. In particular, that we are to take advantage of the natural world for her resources and to be in competition with everyone around us and with the world itself, because we are in a world of scarcity and few resources, and we have to get what we can while we're alive. My friends, these are what we in the business call as lies. Lies that come from this capitalist mindset, this predominantly Western white male mindset that says in the patriarchy, everyone is against one another. There's only one king of the mountain. It does not have to be this way. When we look at our earth on this Earth Day, when we look at the data, when we look at where nature is headed, where life points towards, what is loyal to life, we find a world that is full of abundance, that has plenty of space and food and water and housing. The problem is the distribution is blocked by the obstacles that we set up. That the systems that we made don't point us towards one another, don't help us be in right relationship. They disconnect us from the earth, from the holy, from one another, all of which are connected. I was looking at my computer, as I've done every day for the past month, it feels like, and I saw those images Susan was referencing of the skies over Delhi, of these huge population centers that were full of pollution previously, and how clear the skies are, of how clear waterways have been. And yes, the economy is tanking, people are sick, it's awful. And it's transformation. And sometimes transformation is hard. And grieving has to be done. But we're being given an opportunity to look at the data of our world, of ourselves, of our neighbors, and to make some changes that build resilience and create transformative justice. So this is the question I've been thinking about, and the question I pose to you is, what changes are you making in this time? Are you trying out new ways of communicating? Are you trying out new ways of loving? Are you learning to make things, to grow food, to bake bread? Are you learning to compost? Are you learning more about your neighbors? That's what I've noticed in my neighborhood. For the most part, when I've seen zombie apocalypse movies and the end of the world, when things really get bad, people act in that world of scarcity, like every man for themselves. That's not what I've seen. I've seen cooperation. I've seen loyalty. I've seen encouragement. I've seen what love looks like in these days. And love looks like a lot of things. It looks like following the guidelines to stay healthy and safe. It looks like making sure our families stay healthy and safe. It looks like supporting those folks who have to go to work, those essential healthcare workers, outside the home workers. It looks like spreading love and cheer by ringing bells at 7 p.m., by coming to the church and ringing the bells of the church to let people know that we are still here. It looks like conversations with our neighbors, being in right relationship. It looks like donating cleaning supplies. It looks like donating books and unused clothes. It looks like loving your neighbor as yourself. But friends, what about our neighbors who live in other neighborhoods? What about our neighbors who live on State Road, for example? If you're not familiar with what's on State Road down by the river where I play rugby, it's where the Department of Corrections is. This is where justice comes in. What do eco-justice and the criminal justice or criminal injustice system have in common? How does it connect? When we talk about systemic racism, particularly environmental racism, quick model, traditionally black and brown families have been pushed to the less desirable places to live. Generally, those places are more polluted, more toxic. They lead to poor performance in schools, poorer health problems, greater risk of early onset, heart attack, diabetes, you name it. Leads to poor allocation of resources, poor economic situation, an increase in crime, an increase in the prison population. I wonder if the changes that we might make, a cleaner world, cleaner streets, cleaner schools, more resources, more community, more love, I wonder if that might undo some of the systems that we've created that create a school-to-prison pipeline, for example. So this week, those of us who are in Power Interfaith, and we've been thinking about how to create justice when we're supposed to shelter in place as much as possible, have been working with folks from No 215 Jail and Decarcerate PA. They've been offering some suggestions on how we might be in solidarity with our neighbors on State Road, in the Department of Corrections, and what we can do when we're home. Decarcerate PA is a group that is working to lower the prison population in Philadelphia, especially now because of the outbreak of the virus within Department of Corrections. The virus spreads rapidly, and we want to eliminate unnecessary suffering. Some of the causes for the overcrowding population: the use of cash bail, which is a little more complicated than I can go into right now, but you can check out these resources. Looking up Decarcerate PA, No 215 Jail, the movement to end cash bail, and the social media hashtag that covers all of this is #FreeOurPeopleNow. You can look up what's going on in Philadelphia and how folks are working to lower the prison population to help people stay healthy and safe. The message we got from member Terry Williams at SCI Phoenix talks about how he has only 40 minutes a day to be outside, out of his cell. How connected are you to the earth when that is the system that is operating around you? So if we are looking for something that we can do now to help create justice, Here's something. You can pressure elected officials to free our people now, to end cash bail, to fight wealth inequality, to prevent unnecessary suffering. That sound like small things, but transformative justice has to start small. It has to. That's the only way it works. Eighth principle work has to start small. Dismantling white supremacy culture has to start small. So those things that we're doing, ringing bells, smiling more, having tea, supporting local businesses, supporting black and brown businesses, making art, demanding change, donating to the Philadelphia Bail Fund, to the Black Mama's Bailout, donating your stimulus check if you can afford it, flexing your privilege wherever it is. That may not sound like the Earth Day message you were expecting, but it is all connected in this theory of emergent strategy and in this theology of spring. That we are all supposed to be in right relationship with the earth. We are all of the earth. So if we can decarcerate one city jail, if we can bail a few people out, what more can we do? What can we do on a bigger scale? What other kinds of oppression can we alleviate to eliminate not just coronavirus, but the other sicknesses that plague our society? That first tulip that comes up in the spring emerges and it pokes its head out. And I like to imagine it's looking around and saying, "Is it spring?" Yes, it is. It's that first step that then lets the rest of the world know, oh, yes, it is spring. Let's get a roll on. Let's build some resilience. Let us be transformational and create justice. I think movements like this start the same way. Little actions that peak up and emerge. Say, oh yeah, now we're building something. Now we know what our telos is, our direction. We know where we're headed. Friends, if we are about the business of embracing all souls and restoring wholeness, transforming ourselves and our broken world, transforming our systems until justice rolls down like water, may we start now where we can with a few concrete steps and see what else emerges. May it be so.